In the beginning, we were born. Then we grew. Everything we knew was new.
I know we can show our children a better future, one that we would all understand, one that would join us all together in every part in every land. Our children deserve a better life, to respect and love one another. Oh, let's do it for the children of tomorrow. Take away all the hurt and sorrow. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow. Give them the guidance to follow. I know we can show our children a better future, one that was right and wrong, a new beginning, a new adventure. Show them the ways to be strong. Our children deserve a better life, to respect and love one another. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow. Take away all the hurt and the sorrow. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow, and give them the guidance to follow, to follow, to follow. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow. Do it for the children, and give them the guidance to light their way. Give them the guidance to light their way. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow, and take away all the hurt and the sorrow. Take it away. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow.
Rawr.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out. Kind of.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
And welcome to Talkin Shhh I.T. with Glenn and Tony. Although Glenn is off for the evening out in the mountains. So I got my boy SR with us. And tonight we're going to do things a little different. But we're also going to be looking at something really cool that is probably our most asked question of all questions, which is online jamming and collaborating. SR, welcome. Sounds like you got your audio. Yeah, we got your audio going.
Haha. So you can hear me a little bit,
Oh,
right?
I can hear you good.
At least.
I can hear you good.
Okay. I don't know how loud I have to talk.
No, you're good.
I'll try to talk as much clear as I can.
Yeah, you're good. So before we get started, I wanted to show this little news snippet that came out this week. You know, our buddy Jeremy over at Upside of Hurt, he got a little news special on his red bike delivery service, and it's such an awesome news piece. It's one of those feel-good news pieces that I wish I would see more of, and Jeremy is an inspiration.
Connected to the community, kind of community news. Local news is really good for that, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to
You
be.
actually get some decent news with the local news.
Yeah.
So here's a piece that they did on his red bike delivery service.
All right.
Through the capital city, dropping off food and helping people explore the town. Red Bike Delivery is a taxi-like service.
And this service is already popular in other cities like New York and Chicago. News 10's Sanaya Jordan spent the afternoon with the owner to see how business is going in Lansing.
The bike co-op in Lansing, they donated it.
Jeremy Hurt says he started Red Bike Delivery in Lansing about 3 years ago. He says it's like a taxi cab for food, calling it a low eco-friendly alternative to companies like DoorDash and Uber Eats.
So I just suggest that they get food within a 3-mile radius of their home or office, just to make sure that it's fresh when it gets to them.
Hurt says he started off with just a red bike, but to support inclusion, Hurt now has bikes with all colors to reflect the diversity in our community.
To show like nobody was left out, and that was the best way that I could come up with to portray that.
And Red Bike Delivery is not just for food drop-offs. You can book this bike for date night too.
Chicago has this. Detroit has this. Why doesn't Lansing?
Kind of like a downtown tour, like go on the river trail a little bit and then around downtown as the sun sets. And if you're lucky enough and there's a Lugnuts game, there's fireworks going on too, so those are always fun to see.
And Red Bike Delivery is offered year-round, even in the snow, a service he says the 517 community appreciates.
The community's been amazing. I couldn't ask for a better place to start a business like this. They've been super supportive.
Supportive of a new trend making its way to mid-Michigan. In Lansing, Tanaya Jordan, News 10.
And if you'd like to learn more about Red Bike Delivery, the cost of service, and their business hours, head to our website, WILX.com.
He's definitely booming now.
Yeah, how's that for a feel-good story?
That's how you hit press. Yeah, that's it. That's press. That's the button. That's what you do.
And look at that trike he's riding, man. Tell me that's not badass.
Is it motored or is
No,
he
he is the motor.
Oh my God, he's strong.
Well, he's a workhorse.
It's like a chariot.
And
a modern day
he's
chariot.
got some great ideas. Like, you know, he's setting it up so like a guy who wants to have like a special date night. This is like a horse and carriage, except with a bike.
That makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of like Uber and all that, but like the greatest part is that he actually thought outside the box. Was hey, I could take people on a tour around the city and pull them on one of these trolleys here, and he got robbed before too, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, his bike has been stolen twice over the past year. So,
oh my God.
You know, he's gone through the ringer and come back out stronger and more determined. That's what I love about Jeremy.
Way to use a bicycle in 2023 as a way to get paid and the means. That's cool.
And he's smart enough to see, like, you know, the area he's dealing with, and this is a nice, cost-efficient, clean way to provide these services.
Yeah,
got to give him thumbs up.
That definitely two thumbs up from me.
So let me get our content here on the screen that we're going to be looking at, because we are going to be looking at some cool things. A lot of new stuff for me here too. You know, we've played around a little bit with jamming online. You know, we've tried it with Zoom. I've done it with Restream at this point. I've also tried Sonobus, Jamulus. These are some of the ones we're going to be looking at. And there's a few new ones that have just come along just this year that look really promising for the musicians who want to be able to do live online jamming and collaborating. We're going to look at a couple of different ways to accomplish that. Plus,
that's a hell of a
thing. And you know, we already know collaborating as far as how we do it on BandLab, which is more of a step by step. So you put up your project, you put up your track, somebody adds to it, you get revisions. That's one way of collaborating, and that works really well, you know, in the case of like BandLab, and when you're just building your tracks from separate locations. But being able to jam together in real time starts to feel like what real jams are like. You get to bounce with your...
I would have thought that they would have had this down. Like, especially at the Rocksmith game, I thought, like, for sure they were going to do the online thing and start dealing with that. Because, you know, we got video games and all this stuff that lets us interconnect and collaborate with each other live on the moment, using, like, ping tracking and stuff like that. So I would assume that they would have advanced on the technology by now for music.
I'm really surprised Rocksmith hasn't jumped into that game.
Yeah,
they have the perfect scenario with their hardware and their integration into the computer, and this would be the next evolution for them.
Maybe we should give a little
send them a little note.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, huh?
Yeah. I think you might get their attention there. So the first one we're going to start with, the reason why I chose this one as the beginning is this one comes right out of Reaper. And you know, you use Reaper, Jason does. We got a bunch of you who
Yeah.
Reaper is your go-to DAW. And I was surprised to find out this has been built. This has
Kakos.
been built in to Reaper for a long time now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that it's been hiding in there. It just doesn't get
I saw
doesn't get talked about enough.
NINJAM. I've seen that. I just didn't know how to use
Yeah,
it.
well, and then that hopefully after we get done watching this, you have a better idea of how it works and where it is. So
That would be cool.
this is their webpage, and I put all the links to all this different software into our description tonight. So anybody who wants to
Okay.
try out, any of these, if you go over to our YouTube when the show's done and you look in the description, you'll find links to everything we're mentioning tonight. And if you guys do try any of these out, send me a message. Let me know your experience, how it worked. I'd love to see all of these tested with us at some point. And on the NINJAM page, this one's a pretty straightforward web page. I mean, this software is a little more simplistic, straightforward. It works as a client server kind of setup. So
Sonobus, like deal.
yeah, well,
Okay.
you're going to see this kind of setup with a bunch of these products where one
Yes.
person runs the server, and the server is where the stems, the individual tracks are going to get stored. So in the
Yeah.
case of like this solution, it's what they call a peer-to-peer solution. Somebody runs the server, everybody connects to the server, and the way that they get the low latency and the speed is because you're getting a direct peer-to-peer connection between each connection. So there's no slowdown through a centralized server. That's the problem with like Zoom or Skype, any kind of messenger. When you're trying to use those, you're connecting to Zoom and the other person's connecting to Zoom, and your speeds are only as fast as Zoom servers can be. So a peer-to-peer solution is a nice approach to as fast as you can get to the other musician.
Yeah.
And it's pretty straightforward, how to go about running the server, and the client, like I said, is built right into Reaper. So if you're already using Reaper, you're already ready to connect this way. The video we're
Yeah, well, you have to download the server. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
only one person would have to set up the server.
Yeah.
So whoever's got the best connection is the best candidate for that.
Okay.
So this one came out of Reaper Mania over on YouTube, and that's at Reaper Mania. And this is just a nice little introduction into what NINJAM is and how to basically get it going. Nice and simple.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kenny Joya. Welcome to another one of my tutorials. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use NINJAM, the online jamming plugin in Reaper. So let's start with a new project. We'll create a track over here. We'll name it NINJAM. Then we'll make another track underneath it. And here's where we're going to put our instrument. I'm going to play a piano, go into record, and set up my input. I'm using my MIDI, USB MIDI keyboard, and a virtual instrument plugin. Now, if you're doing audio, like a microphone, or plugging in your guitar or bass, or miking your drums, or even singing, you would set up your input over here as an analog input. But I'm using MIDI, so I'm using a USB MIDI keyboard. Then I'm going to add a virtual instrument plugin for piano. Right here, piano 1. And then I'll play it to make sure it works. Then I'm going to make this track into a folder for this track. So our instruments are all below the folder track, and they're all sending their audio to it. So let's add the NINJAM plugin to this track. Go to Track Effects, and we'll choose under Reaper, the RIA NINJAM plugin. And it should look like this. Now, if the console window isn't open, we can open it from here. And from here, we can add local channels if they're not set up automatically. Right here. Then we'll name this channel piano or whatever instrument you're using. And this button right here is going to transmit our instrument to the NINJAM server so everyone else can hear it. In fact, because of that, we could turn this off and play our piano, and only we are going to hear it. So it's a great way of testing out our part or finding the key before we start jamming with the other players, and then turn it on when we're ready. And this section over here only adjusts our monitoring. It doesn't affect what the other players are hearing. It's just for us. We can adjust the master volume over here and the metronome volume over here, along with the panning, the mute, and even solo. And once we connect with our server, we're going to see the other players over here. Now, if we want to record what we play, we can go to the File menu and choose Preferences, and make sure we select Save Multitrack Recordings for remixing later. And we can choose the path where it's saved right down here. So now let's hit the Connect button to search for servers. And they show up right here. And we can see with these numbers how many slots are available and how many players are in that room or on that server. This one has 7 out of 8, 6 out of 8. Let's join this one, which is playing at a tempo of 100 beats per minute with 8 beats or 2 bars of count it, or latency, which I'll explain in a bit. So let's sign in right here and connect right here. We'll accept the license agreement, and we'll hear the click track playing right away. And when it plays through 8 beats, we'll hear the other players playing. So let me explain latency. Latency in NINJAM is measured in measures or beats. In this case, it's 8 beats. That's what makes it interesting. It records and then streams synchronized passes of music between players. Just as our pass finishes recording, it begins playing on everyone else's system. So when you play through a pass, you're playing along with the previous pass of everybody else. And they're playing along with your previous pass. It sounds weird, but it does work for jamming, as long as everyone is playing loop-based progressions. So let's turn this off so you can find the key that everyone's playing. Let's turn transmit back on so they could hear us. And right down here, we could chat with the other players. And adjust the mix up here. So that's pretty much it. That's NINJAM, the online jamming plugin in Reaper. Hope you learned something, hope you could use it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.
So who knew that that was hiding in Reaper? I did not.
No, I absolutely had no idea either. But it loop-based, like,
Well,
so you have to have it in a sequence.
and that's an interesting approach. That's a little different than
Yeah.
some of the other ones we're going to look at. but I like the
That's a
idea.
lot.
That's how they get around some of the latency issues by synchronizing everybody to the server's metronome, getting somebody to do a part, and then now the part is part of the server, and in time having people add their layers on top of it. It it works, and you won't
Yeah,
deal
it's
with the
kind of like
kind of
band
latency you
ladders.
would with some of these other
Yeah.
solutions. So I got to give them credit for taking a different approach there. And you notice the features as far as monitoring and being able to uh,
Yeah.
um, adjust things on your side without affecting what everybody else is going to hear. You can mute
Yeah.
yourself on the server, practice your part. Then when you're ready, unmute, and now you're sending it to the server. These features, you're going to start to see a theme. These are the features that all of these solutions offer,
Right.
which is nice because with Zoom and the Messenger approach, you can't control everybody's audio. You can't adjust it for your preference. It's pretty much what you get is what you get.
Yeah.
So that one came out of at Reaper Media over on YouTube. And any of you out there, if you're using Reaper, check this channel out. I mean, he is all about Reaper tutorials. You're gonna find everything you ever wondered about in Reaper with this guy. Definitely a great find because I'm gonna be switching to Reaper myself.
I would. It's easier
Well,
on
and
your
and
machine.
with the news in the last couple of weeks with Cakewalk, it's more compelling now for me to really start biting the bullet there.
Yep.
So the next piece of software, now this one you're familiar with. This is the one that I've recommended the most so far.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's one of the most rock solid solutions out there for what they're trying to do. It's very well developed. It's free. That's a big deal. Um, and I've tested it with the latency and sent my keyboard signals to Joe over in Georgia and played my keyboard listening to what he's hearing over there. And it's actually fast
Yeah.
enough that I could play over here monitoring from his house, which is real impressive.
Yeah. I mean, when I went on there, I didn't like the public servers. They were.
Yeah, that's one of the things with this one, and also you're gonna the next one we're gonna look at afterwards. Um, they offer public servers where you can basically jump into any old jam room
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
want to do that.
meet other musicians, jam with other musicians. Sometimes that's cool. Just like with BandLab, sometimes you're going to these things to find musicians. So the public servers are a nice option if you're exploring and trying to find musicians, but it does have private servers, and you don't have to run a server in order to connect this way. The nice thing with this solution is everybody just runs the Sonobus client, connects to whoever set up the room. When you create a room on Sonobus, you make it a private room, you set up a password, you give out the address to the other musicians, and you have a nice private room to jam in.
Yeah.
It works with VSTs, so any DAW that you're using, as long as you got the VST installed, you can push your sound from your DAW, but it also has a standalone client, so you don't even have to run your DAW. You can run the standalone client, configure your audio hardware, connect to the room that you want to, and you're in business. And it's got great latency as far as all the ones I've tested. This one so far has been the fastest.
Sounds good.
So this one came from The video we're going to be looking at here came from Audio Geek 11, I believe, over on YouTube. Yep, Audio Geek 11 over on YouTube. And again, he covers, and you'll notice he also covers Jamulus. He's looking into these things, and he's got videos of all sorts of products, reviews on gear. He really is an audio geek. So he's going to show us, how to set up Sonobus, how to get a room set up, how to connect to it, and get going with the jamming.
Hello and welcome to another Audio Geek 11 tutorial. It's Fabio here from Audio Geek 11 and the Where Music Meets Technology podcast. Before we start today's tutorial, just remind you, if you're listening to the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to get notified. As I am recording for both, I might be describing what I'm seeing here because obviously people on the podcast will not have the visuals, okay? So the topic today is Sonobus, which is yet another solution for jamming online with your bandmates while social distancing. Okay, and you may say, "Oh, hey Fabio, that's so 2020." Well, there's lockdowns going around still, social distancing, things are still happening, and even if when this pandemic is over, I think some people will still jam online because your mates may have moved to another city, and maybe you can't play with them anymore because it's too far to drive, but you can actually jam online. Okay, so last year I covered a few different solutions like JamKazam, like Jamulus. And you can find those videos on my YouTube channel. And JackTrip was another one of them. And this year, I actually decided to focus a bit more on Sonobus because I found Sonobus later in the year, 2020. And I switched basically my band, all my bandmates, and a lot of my clients switched to Sonobus because to me, it's a next level software for this type of application because of all the different use cases it caters to. Okay, so let's just zoom in. All right, so what we are seeing here is Sonobus standalone. You can find this article here in the show notes or the description of the video, and this is an article on my website or my blog. And here you will find a link to download Sonobus, which is free, by the way. And when you install, you're going to notice that you install as an application, but also as a plugin, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Okay. Just get rid of that notification there. And here we go. Back to Sonobus. Okay, so Sonobus, and if you've watched my videos in the past, you will know there's different types of online jam applications. Some of them are hub and spoke, and some are peer-to-peer. Sonobus is peer-to-peer, so it has the advantages of peer-to-peer, which is normally a lower latency because you have direct connection between the peers, but the disadvantage is that the bandwidth might be a little bit higher and sometimes it's harder to configure. But Sonobus made it extremely easy to configure for a peer-to-peer application. So obviously each player is going to have to go through this setting up their sound card, sample rate, buffer size. And there's a recommendation to start with a lower buffer size and then increase if you're having glitches and audio quality issues. As with any of these applications, the higher the sample, the buffer size, the higher the chance that you're going to have a better audio quality because there's going to be more buffering in the audio, but the latency is going to be higher. And there's obviously a level in which it's no longer possible to play online. If you want to know more about that, just head on to my website, read the article. There's links to other articles there. There's specific articles on latency and how to find out the ping times between the cities. I didn't want to cover this in this video because I've covered that in the articles and also on previous videos, right? So basically you need to find that out to see if this applications will work for you depending on where your bandmates are. Normally, if you're within the same metropolitan region, you're fine if you have broadband. So basically you set the sample rate and set the buffer size for each one of the players. Each player is going to have an instance of this in their machines, right? I'm here running on a Mac, the other guy could be running on a PC, and somebody else could be running on a Linux machine. They actually cater to all sorts of different platforms. Okay. Now, the second thing that you have to do, I mean, there are more advanced settings here that each player may be able to do. And one of them is the audio quality. Okay. So I would probably start with something closer to, say, 256 kilobits per channel, probably closer to the quality of music you hear on, say, Apple Music, right? Or perhaps an MP3 player. And then only switch down if you have to. The cool thing about Sonobus, and basically it is if you're having latency issues and quality issues, then you could go to a lower bit rate. Of course, the quality of the sound will be degraded a little bit, but the latency will be a little bit better. So there's a trade-off between the buffer size that you set and the codec that you select, right? Therefore, the bandwidth. If you're really close to each other and you're able to play with low latency, you can even try to go lossless, which is pretty cool, right? Not a lot of the applications I tried have this sort of selection when it comes to codecs. So this is a pretty cool thing to have. Now, there are more advanced settings here. The recommendations that initially you leave these things in auto and only fiddle with them if you really have to. Because it's actually tricky to get them adjusted properly for all the players. Okay, so on my instances, when I played, everybody had this in auto, and we didn't really fiddle with the jitter buffer. We just actually settled on a certain codec and bit rate that worked for everybody in terms of, the trade-off between latency and quality. And most of us had like professional audio cards, like I have a Universal Audio Apollo. Some were using a Focusrite. Some were using pre-Sonos. Most of us were between 128 samples or 256 samples, which gives you a tolerable latency, being that we're all in the same metropolitan area, in the realm of tens of milliseconds, which makes possible for you to play together. Okay. The connection is to a group. Again, this is peer-to-peer, not hub and spoke, so you're not actually connecting to a server, even though it looks like you're connecting to a server. You're creating a group, and you can't elect to make it public, right? Or you can actually make it private. There are a few public groups there, as you can see, okay? Depending on where you are. But in this case here, I'm going to make my group private, and I'm going to connect to it, of course, and then you get an input mixer, which basically shows you your levels, and once the other players join, you'll be able to see their levels as well. And then you mix them to your own satisfaction to be able to hear the music that is being played. Which is very, very similar to what Jamulus does, by the way. So if you watch my video on Jamulus, it's the same thing, right? You're able to control each one's volumes. You're able to control your volume going out to them and monitor your volume as well. Okay? You're able to solo individual tracks, okay, and you can hide the input mixer, if it's getting in the way. Actually, by the way, this is actually the monitor for everybody. Your output level is here, so I stand corrected. Here you go. You can actually control the level that you send to everybody, and you can also control your level of monitoring everybody. And the other things that Sonobus has that most of the other ones don't have, it has a built-in metronome, which is pretty cool and pretty useful. Also, it has a file playback, which means that you can pick a file from your computer, like an audio file from your computer, and then you can play it like a backing track, for example. So let's say you only have two musicians playing, so it's bass and guitar, and the other band members are not available. You could actually pick a backing track and just play a backing track to everybody, okay, as if it was another player. And then control the level of that backing track versus the other players as well. Okay? Now, the other really cool feature that Sonobus has, and I'll call this use case number 2. Okay? First, with the explanation, of course, if you're listening on the podcast, you will see these controls here once you read the article or download the application. Basically, Sonobus has an interface that looks kind of like a mixer, allows you to see not only your levels, but also the levels of everybody else that is in the session, as well as the levels for the metronome and the file playback or the backing track that you're playing for everybody. So you could have a backing track, metronome, and a few players connected, and then you have controls over the levels for everybody in the session. And you do control your group by creating a group name and making it private. You can even make it private with a password and then give out the name to everybody in your band. And then everybody will join using that same name and perhaps the password as well. Okay? Now I am disconnecting from the standalone because the thing I wanted to show / talk about is the next level in which this can be used. Of course, if you're watching the video here you can see what it looks like when other players are involved. I'm showing here a more elaborate view of Sonobus, and it's showing a few different players here. So one player is sending 5 channels of audio, the other player is sending 2 channels of audio, and the other player is sending mono audio, and you have control of level for all of them on the main mixer. And there's even a backing track being played at the same time as well. Pretty cool. Okay, now the second use case, which is really useful, is streaming out. So as you may recall, if you've watched my videos like people using Jamulus to be able to stream out, Jamulus doesn't really stream anywhere. Unlike JamKazam, JamKazam is a commercial application and it has a few different pricing plans. And in one of the pricing plans, it does have the option of streaming out to some streaming services, okay? But you gotta pay for that plan. Neither Jamulus nor JamKazam have nor OBS have that. So with Jamulus you have to use some external software like Loopback to grab the audio from Jamulus, for example, and stream that out, send that out to OBS and then stream that out. With OBS, you don't have to do that. When you install OBS, it also installs. When you install Sonobus, it also installs itself as a filter for OBS. So inside OBS, you can create an input capture, and then on that input capture, you can apply a filter that is the Sonobus instance for OBS. It's called a VST, okay? Actually, inside OBS, even though I'm on a Mac, it's still called a VST inside OBS. It's just how it's hosted. I'm on a Mac, and I'm hosting OBS also inside Logic Pro as an AU plugin, but inside OBS it appears as a VST, and that's why I ticked all those boxes when I installed it as a VST and also as an AU plugin. Okay, so it does appear inside OBS as well. So you create a new scene inside OBS, and then in that scene you add an audio input capture, and on that audio input capture you add the filter, and you pick that filter to be the Sonobus VST. That opens up as a slightly simplified instance of Sonobus that doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the standalone has, because that version of OBS, of Sonobus, is only for capturing the audio from the other instance, which is the standalone instance, and sending that out to your streaming platform, okay? So just to be clear, inside OBS, you need to bring up that VST, that Sonobus VST, as a filter in your audio input capture in your scene, okay? You still need to have Sonobus standalone running to be able to send the session to this instance that runs inside OBS. So both connect to the same group, and in this case here I named the group Audio Geek 11, of course. And if you're not seeing this, if you're seeing, you can see here that in one of them I'm calling myself Fabio, which is my name, of course, and that's the standalone version of Sonobus. That's where I'm connecting my guitar, and that's where the audio from everybody else in my session is coming from. Inside OBS, it pops up as a simplified version of Sonobus, in which I'm going to connect to the same group called Audio Geek 11. I'm gonna name that player that connects in that instance. I'm gonna name that OBS so I can clearly see OBS on the other instance as well. And that's going to stream everything that you see in the standalone session is going to go into this instance inside OBS, and it's going to go out to whatever streaming service you have connected to OBS. Nice and easy, No need to do, voice meter banana. No need to do loopback. No need to do reroute like I've done in previous videos. Hey, Fabio, you can go ahead and then just delete all those videos. No, those videos are still valid, right? Because those videos were done with Jamulus. If you're using Jamulus, if you prefer Jamulus, you can still use those techniques to get your audio out to from Jamulus into OBS, right? But here, they took the next step and basically eliminate one of the processes we had, and just allowed you to stream the music directly from the standalone version of Sonobus into the Sonobus running inside OBS, and from there it goes out to your favorite streaming services. Why? Because then you can send your online jam with your friends, all distancing from each other. You can send that out to, say, Twitch, Facebook, you name it. Okay? I hope that's all clear. Now the next use case which is pretty cool, is that you can use it as a plugin. So as a plugin, it pops up inside your digital audio workstation. And as you will recall from the installation procedure, it pops up as it is available when you install it as an audio unit, a VST3, a VST2, and an AAX. So therefore, you can use it on Pro Tools, on Reaper, Cubase, Logic Pro, and many more. Okay? Now, when it pops up inside your digital audio workstation, it pops up as yet another instance that you can connect to the same group. Okay, so you do the same thing here. You connect it to that group, and you still have the standalone version running. Okay, so let me show here. So obviously I'm going to disconnect this one here. It is already disconnected, so I'm going to close my standalone version because I don't need it anymore. This is actually replacing my standalone version, and I can also stream this one into OBS. So you could have standalone and OBS, or digital audio workstation and OBS. Again, to make it very, very clear, if you head on to my website, you can see this running. You can see snapshots of this running and step by step how to do this in the article. Okay, but here I'm trying to show, as well as I can, that you can do the same. So you basically connect to that same group. Okay, you also have an input mixer, and you're also waiting for other users to join. Of course, I don't have anybody playing with me at the moment, but you would see other players here, and I could bring up that same session here. I could bring that up inside OBS. And before you ask, hey Fabio, why are you showing pictures of OBS? You're not showing OBS itself when you're showing the instances running inside OBS. Simple explanation, because I use OBS to record my videos, so there's a chicken egg issue there, right? If I switch to OBS here, then I cannot show OBS inside OBS. So I'm showing snapshots of what I did before I ran the video, right? So here's an example of the plugin running inside the digital audio workstation, and then the VST instance running inside OBS. And in this case, I'm sending all the audio from my digital audio workstation and the other players as well into OBS and then out to a streaming service. Now the next question would be, why would you run it inside the digital audio workstation? What's the advantage? Well, to be quite honest, it's less advantageous than in the case of Jamulus, because it does have an internal metronome and a backing track, an ability to load a backing track. So therefore, the things I was doing with Logic Pro on Jamulus, which is basically playing a backing track to my bandmates, or a metronome or a click, right? You can now do it from within the app. But it's still useful because you might have other needs inside the digital audio workstation that Sonobus doesn't fulfill yet. It does have some limited effects that you can apply to your audio, like a compressor and EQ. But inside your digital audio workstation, it's basically up to whatever you have. You can apply reverb, you can apply whatever you have in terms of plugins, okay? In this case here, I actually put the plugin in the master bus. Because the plugin is in the master bus, right? And it means that anything going to that master bus is going to go into my Sonobus instance, okay? Which is connected here, right? In this case here, I have two tracks inside my digital audio workstation. One of them is capturing both channels of my Line 6 Helix. Therefore, they're no longer going directly into Sonobus. They're going through a track inside Logic Pro X, and there I'm applying some reverb. just as an example, right? So therefore, the sound from my Helix is actually going through that reverb. You could argue, yeah, Helix has reverb as well. It's just an example. This could be your dry guitar sound, and this here could be amplitude, for example, right? So you could be sending your processed sound, guitar sound through Logic Pro with amplitude into Sonobus. That would be an good example. And then on another track, I have a backing track. And then on another track, I could have a bass. I could have some keyboards that I play, just to, work out the arrangement with my bandmates or something like that. So pretty neat that you can actually have all these 3 instances and 3 variants of Sonobus running in your computer for no cost for jamming online with your bandmates. Again, standalone, inside OBS, and as a plugin inside your digital audio workstation. And obviously you can combine the last 2 together as well, because you can have it as a plugin, and you can also have it inside OBS and use both in combination. Okay, again, this article, the link to this article is in the show notes of the podcast if you're listening to the podcast, description of the video, and if you're watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe both to the podcast and the YouTube channel. Okay, helps me a lot. If you need assistance with any of this, my contact information is also in the description. You can contact me, contact@audiogeek11.com. I'll be happy to help you out. We can set up a session. We can discuss how this can be progressed further. For now, I would like to thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next videos and the next episodes here in the Audio Geek 11 channel. Thank you.
Oh, I like Audio Geek. That's a new channel for us, a freshie, and we're definitely going to be visiting his channel more often, especially
Yeah, I
with
definitely
this
dig
kind of
that.
stuff.
I was thinking, like I was telling you, it would require a good computer, but essentially, if you can emulate some kind of workstation into it and get it in it, and then get it to fully function there and there, you would have more options, more connections, probably a little bit of the Ninja and that together might actually be a good thing.
Well,
when you're
I
trying to-
saw the little electrons in your head exploding
Yeah.
there as he was talking about, integrating
That bus.
other
Yeah.
well, with the DAW integration, what he was mentioning there, Sonobus kind of has its own mini DAW.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can set up a backing track over there, you can use VSTs directly in Sonobus. You don't necessarily need to integrate it with your DAW to connect and get your sound, but if you do, you have additional effects processors. You use the Helix, and if you can't load the Helix over on the Sonobus side, you can load it over on Reaper, in your case, connect to the Sonobus and add those extra effects processors from your DAW. So the DAW integration, much as it seems like it's not as important with Sonobus, it's useful.
Question. Now think of this. You're recording, right? You can record in this thing.
Well, yes,
I can, 'cause I have
it
this
will
live
record.
box.
It will record each person's session.
I can hit internal play and get a recording with my thing, or I can do it that way. But hear me out. Put a guitar track down, then send that guitar track. If it goes to him and it's not the same, it's the same, but the file has been compressed or moved a little bit.
Well, it shouldn't move because the way Sonobus does its internal metronome, if you're playing at a certain time, if you're playing to the metronome, to the Sonobus metronome, it should line up. That's the whole feature of this is that
Yeah.
central metronome that everybody's playing to keeps everybody lined up on the tracks.
So essentially, if I needed something, like say I don't have the equipment here to do something, but my buddy does, and I want to send my guitar tracks over to him. Basically, got it all done, did all the parts. I just want to play it back through there. He gets it recorded on his DAW and added into his working, the project. Could you do that?
Yes.
Like,
What he would do is he would take your guitar tracks and he would add them in Sonobus as backing tracks. Sonobus lets you add virtual tracks along with the players. So
yeah,
if you did all your guitar parts and everybody else is going to play off of those guitar parts, he could take your guitar parts, set them up as a backing track on the Sonobus session, and then everybody else is hearing your guitar parts and playing to them.
now, can he take that guitar track and replay the audio through the output and get the audio to come back and me record
Yes.
on my end?
If you send him a clean guitar track and he decided he wanted to use the Helix to get a distortion, he could take the clean guitar track that you gave him, set up Helix as a plug-in on
Play
that
back that
backing
one he
track,
recorded,
and
right?
that clean guitar all of a sudden is now processing through the plug-in.
Oh, so when he can do that, and he can send me back the replayed through whatever back through the input, and it's coming back to me differently now because it's going through a process. That would mean I could put that track underneath that track that I originally sent, and it would work.
And
Left and right.
that would mean you could be doing something where with your computer, if it couldn't, for instance, you could just do a nice clean recording, have him
That is
process
insane.
it, and give you back the effect track.
Oh, that's so useful. You know what I'm thinking. You know where I'm at.
No,
I don't think
there's a lot of
think
possibilities with this one.
there's some reamping right there. You could do.
That's
You could do it.
That's why this is
Yeah.
the one that I'm most interested in. This is the one we've tested and mentioned the most. Of all these picks, this one's a no-brainer. We are gonna be playing with Sonobus.
That would be the solution. That's so cool, dude. I'm gonna look more into that because now I think that would be a good way. I mean, if you have the two people that are participating that are able to do this, but you know what I said about that, getting that extra haws out of the setup. If you get your guitar track, you go back through that amp and back through that cab and back through a mic, and it's coming back to you again.
Well, you're talking about reprocessing.
Yes, you could fucking. I'm sorry, but Carson, you could really do some damage with that. That is cool, dude. I think that would be a really cool thing for me to do with my friend of mine here, because he's always been trying to talk about doing it, and he said, well, you can't do what I want to do because you need two computers and two direct boxes.
In some cases, yes. If you reprocessing, unless you have a powerful computer to work with, reprocessing will eat up extra processing and extra RAM to take what you're doing and reprocess it through other filters and effects.
Yeah, it would be really insane.
But what we're talking about here, if you go this approach, you're not processing it on your end.
Yeah.
Whoever's getting the signal over on Sonobus is taking your signal and processing it over there.
And there, right? So it'd be different. The phase line would change.
Yeah.
It would change. You would get your double track. That would be a really quick way. So if you set up a studio and you have two studios doing this back and forth, and you could do it in the same house, whatever, that essentially would be the way of doing that. Because now you don't have to deal with. I don't need
Well,
Well, you still need two computers.
you're
but
spreading the workload.
Yeah. Yes, yes. You're spreading the workload. You're not requiring wire. You're taking away wire input, crazy stuff that you probably couldn't wrap your head around to do it without going to get the
Well,
box
yeah,
that you looked into.
if you were dealing
Yeah,
with multiple computers and multiple interfaces,
right.
you'd be using physical wires to connect those two interfaces
A
to each other.
resignal
But
amp thing
what we're
is
talking about
not.
here is
Yeah,
just digital patch bay. You're
right.
not using
So you
physical
would
wires. You're routing one signal into another digital device.
You're taking that digital and getting the analog sound from it.
Yeah.
Well, getting it, reprocessing it. That's cool, dude. I really like this idea, and I think I'm gonna run that by my friend, see what he
Oh,
thinks.
that's a worthy experiment with this. When
Yeah.
we do get it set up and we start playing around with it, I'll process some of your shit on my machine.
Hell yeah, we'll do it back and forth, see what works.
now,
I know it'll work. I have a feeling it will.
one of the other cool bonuses, for me especially, is not only can you send audio this way with Sonobus and some of these other ones, but it supports MIDI tracks. So if you had, like, you've got that Roland soft synth now, which has the same patches my Roland has. If you're running a soft synth over at your house, I can send just the MIDI notes. I don't have to send audio. And if I'm just sending MIDI notes, it's super tiny. I can trigger your synthesizer from my keyboard. And that's powerful. That means
Yeah.
I'm playing a keyboard at somebody else's room.
That is. I'm telling you, like, do you understand? I think you understand what I'm saying. Because you said it's in another room. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's in
So,
another house, another state.
right,
When I was
it's
testing it
being
with
processed
Joe,
different.
I was playing over on Joe's machine and just
Yes.
sending MIDI, and it was instant.
I'm telling you, you can get the double track like that because it would be in a different room, different sound. Because it's coming back through the cab into the mic, and then you're capturing back on your computer from the other side that reprocessed of what you just sent him.
Yeah,
and that would essentially work. That you're correct. I'm saying it's gotta work.
so
Dancing.
that is definitely one of the most promising
Yeah.
solutions that we're looking at, and we kind of start off with a bang there. Like, I knew this
Yeah.
one had to be in the list because there's no avoiding Sonobus, but
That's amazing,
um,
man.
the next one we're going to look at, Jamulus, I actually looked at that a couple of years ago, and it's a thriving community in its own right.
Yeah.
What I noticed with Jamulus, a lot of the people who were migrating over to there from Sonobus and some of these other solutions, the reason why they were migrating to Jamulus was because it's community driven. It's a small programming group. Like, it really, the developer, he supports the shit out of Jamulus, and
Yeah.
it, it's a tight knit community of users and developers. And with Jamulus, it's much easier to go find rooms and servers all over the world. Sonobus, you kind of have to explore, and the rooms are much more limited. You're not going to find musicians with Sonobus the same way you will with Jamulus.
Yeah.
Jamulus kind of is like, imagine BandLab with
Right.
Sonobus, and that's where this particular solution has its own niche.
Yeah. It's a very useful. I know it's gonna become a tool later. Somebody's gonna figure out how to stack things and do stuff, setting stuff like that. That's cool. So this one's Jamulus.
Yeah, this is probably my second contender after Sonobus.
Yeah.
Just because I have tested these, this would be my number two in ones to try, and it is really good. The one criticism I would have is it has a steeper figuring out curve. I mean, you saw with
Yes.
Sonobus what he showed, like you want to tweak your bit rate and you want to adjust things so that you fix any latency or what they call jitter. Um,
Yeah.
Jamulus at the time when I was looking at it, I haven't seen where they've gone in the last year and a half, but at the time, configuring these kinds of settings were a little tricky. And you know me, I'm okay with diving into technical specs and tweaking bit rates, but even for me, it was like, I don't understand some of these dials that I have to play with. And the documentation there at the time, the videos at the time weren't as proficient as they are now. Now, if you want to figure out Jamulus, YouTube's got a shitload of videos for it.
Yeah. I think most of the trouble with me with trying to use these things with the latency, I don't know. It just feels like I feel like I'm wrestling with a CB radio when I'm with them. It's like you can kind of hear what's going on the other side. You're not really sure if they're hearing you. You know, you kind of end up lying there.
Sometimes that's the way it is in Zoom.
Yeah. It's very confusing in most of this stations is what they call them, right? Stages.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hopefully they'll make a good one. Let's see what this one is.
Well, between all of these, there's a couple of good ones. So with Jamulus, it's a lot like the first one we looked at, where if you're just going to jam and you go to the public servers and find some place to jam, you don't need much. You run Jamulus and you run it as a client, you connect to a room. If you actually want to record and have control over your session, there is a Jamulus server. So just like the first one, you can install the server, create your own room, decide if it's private or public, password protect it, and with the server, you can have the server record each person's sessions and stems on the server. So again, another peer-to-peer solution. That's how they keep things fast. That's how they keep people communicating directly to the other computers without having to go through a centralized server.
Yeah.
And it looks like they have cleaned up. The main page used to have a lot more stuff in it. They've simplified it. They've got it nice and simple. They put the instructions over on the right. You still have to tweak this, just like Sonobus, for your bit rates to get the sweet spot for speed. But with Jamulus, if you are interested in exploring the world's band rooms, you're going to find a ton more band rooms with this software. And the one we're going to look at here is actually coming from Bengineer, the Bengineer. And this guy really is like the go-to guy for Jamulus. Like as far as the tutorials that are available out there, he's the king daddy of them. He's over at the Bengineer Audio on YouTube.
He's the king and the daddy.
And he does cover other things too. I mean, you see Sonobus. I mean, he's another one of those who's looking at this stuff and giving us the facts.
Right.
So what we're going to look at here is getting started with Jamulus, what it takes as far as the website goes. You know, like I said, they're all in the description for tonight, but jamulus.io is the place to go.
Yeah.
And we're going to look at this compared to what we saw with Sonobus and see what the differences are. These two really are the good ones to compare. From here out, the other ones we're going to look at, you're going to start to see significant differences in approach.
Yeah.
But this one comes with a standalone program. I'm not sure if it does do the VST, but we'll see what he says about that. And like Sonobus, one thing I forgot to mention over there, the beauty of S4 Android. Oh, am I still here? I got the little connection. Come on, Elon. Hook a brother up.
Elon.
So as I was saying, with Sonobus, you have clients for every environment: mobile, Windows, Mac, even Linux. You can connect with Sonobus. Jamulus, a little more limiting, but we'll see what he says as far as what the options are. I'm not sure if they have a mobile way to use it, but we'll see what he said.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So this is online jamming using Jamulus.
Hi, today I want to talk to you about another program called Jamulus. Now this was the first program I came across while looking to do online jamming, and I had pretty good success with my band with it. Now it consists of a client and a server software. The server is optional. You can install that on your own machine or on another person that's going to be jamming with your machine, or even a server out there. There is public servers you can access. People are hosting them on Amazon and all kinds of places. Now, what's nice about this setup is that you could just find random people to jam with in other places that have public servers. Now, if you're just looking for other musicians to play with, this might actually be a perfect software for you. You can pop in, look at the public servers, see how many people are in there, and just jump in. I was able to jump in with people around the world, people from Italy, people from Germany, US, all kinds of places. Now you will see the ping and how much delay you're going to have by connecting with them, but that's all available with the software. So let's jump in and see what Jamulus is all about. All right, so getting started with Jamulus, we're going to go to jamulus.io for the website in your web browser. To get the software, you're going to go Get Started Now. Now it's going to work on Windows 10, Mac OS. You have to have El Capitan 10, 11 or higher, or Linux. So what you're going to do is scroll down here and then click on Install on Mac OS if you're on a Mac like I am. Then go to the download page. It's going to go here to SourceForge to download. Just give it a few seconds before it downloads. Save it to your desktop. Okay, then we're going to run the install. Agree to the terms. Okay, so once that installs, you're going to get this screen right here where you can drag and drop the applications into your application folder on the Mac. Now, it's going to come with a client and a server separate program. So if you're going to be hosting your own server, you'll need to have this installed as well. So you'll just drag these over to your applications folder one by one. Okay. Once that's done, you can just click over into applications and look for Jamulus. So you open. All right, so once you load Jamulus for the first time, you're going to want to set up your audio interface. You do that by going to Settings here. Now in this device dropdown is going to show all your audio devices connected to your computer. Let's say you have your own interface that you plugged in, also your internal sound card or anything else. Maybe you have a USB microphone. So you'll choose that from here. It's going to have in and output settings. So I'm going to choose my Focusrite Thunderbolt in and then output the Focusrite Thunderbolt. Now once you do that, your inputs are going to all show up in this drop down. Say your interface has 16 inputs like mine. You need to choose those 2 inputs that you're going to use in Jamulus. Now for output, you're just going to put whatever one you want for out. That's just the left and right out. Your audio device is going to have buffer settings down here. I usually leave it on the default of 128, but you can play around with this. Say you're trying to get lower latency through your audio interface. You could try to bring this down to 2 milliseconds. Now, if you start getting a lot of audio dropouts and a lot of weird audio, I would definitely bump this back up. if you have a slower computer, you may find yourself having to actually put this up to 10 milliseconds, which is going to give you the most latency, but may smooth out your audio from dropping out. So just kind of experiment with that. Enabling small network buffers, I kind of had no really good experience with that. I think that depends on your router and how you have packets being sent. So I just leave that off. You can experiment with that if you want to try that out. Now jitter buffer, I mostly leave on auto unless I notice it jumping around a lot. You're going to want to be on Ethernet connection so that you can minimize your jitter. What the jitter does is as your network connection kind of varies, slows down and packets are coming in at various times, it tries to buffer some of that audio so that it can stream it all together and play clean audio to you without any dropouts. So if you have this on auto and your connection is kind of going wonky, it's going to raise your jitter buffer, which also raises the delay of your signal. So if you want to experiment with this, I would definitely turn this into manual and try to adjust this once you're comfortable knowing what your jitter should be. And we'll look at the server later and I'll be able to tell you more about that. For your audio channels, you have a choice of making everything audio, so mono in and mono out. That's good if you're trying to just sum everything into one channel. Like you have a guitar input and a vocal input and you want them just to be summed to mono for everyone else. If you want that same thing, but you want to also get stereo back from everybody else, you want to do mono in and stereo out. That's probably the most common setup. If you do have a DAW running, or a mixer into Jamulus, you may want to run a stereo signal. Say you have a stereo keyboard or a drum set. Stereo is going to be the best option for you. If you do run mono signal, you will be sending less audio over the internet, so you will get better performance, just as a note. Also, your audio quality will depend on the encoding that's used and your bandwidth that's used for your signal. So experiment with this. I usually leave it on low. I don't notice too much of a difference when I'm just doing jamming. So I just decide to leave it on low for best bandwidth. New client level is going to be a percentage of the fader when people join your session of where they're going to be blended. And say you don't want someone jumping in the middle of you jamming at full blast. You can just have new volume set lower. And that's pretty much it. I leave everything else as is. Now the next thing you can do is go up to view and then your profile, and you can set a name for yourself when you join sessions, as well as an instrument, where you're coming from, city, and then your skill level. That just helps people know like who they'd be jamming with if you're in a public room. Okay, so now we'll make a connection to other people. So let's go connect. You will see all the public servers that are available. If you're going to be doing your own server, we'll talk about that next because that's going to require the server software to be installed. But to get started, you may want to just try to find a server that's closest to you and your friends that you're jamming with are kind of centralized with the lowest ping time. So you might want to talk to your people that you're going to be jamming with and just pick one. This is probably the best way to get started, just testing this out. That way you don't have to worry about your server setup and all the port forwarding and all the kind of stuff that can go wrong with trying to set up your own server. So once you jump in, you're going to have a volume fader for yourself, as well as anyone else that joins. Now you can mute people or yourself, you can solo them. If you're going to be in a public server with other people, it's sometimes helpful just to solo the people that you're going to be jamming with. Say someone hops in that you don't really want to be a part of, what you're hearing. You can just solo yourself or mute them. It's kind of helpful if you're using a public server because you just don't know who's going to be joining. You can also pan everybody to their own, speaker. So if you got two guitars, you might want to pan one left, one right, and keep bass in the middle. It's kind of helpful for that. You can put reverb on yourself. You can also pan your own signal if you are monitoring yourself through here, which is helpful. Now, personally, I monitor myself right through my hardware on my Focusrite, so I don't want to hear myself in Jamulus, so I just mute myself the whole time. That's not going to affect everybody else hearing you, only if you hit mute yourself over here. This will stop everyone from hearing you. So yeah, that's pretty much how to set up a session. Anytime you can go back to the chat window and you can type to people in the room. Now let's go over setting up servers. Okay, so now you're going to go try to open the Jamulus server app, which you installed at the beginning. You're going to have to go to applications and then run Jamulus server. Let's going to warn you about opening the file. Okay, by default, this is already running now. You have it open, it's ready to be connected to. There are some settings in here. Say you want to make this server a public server in the list, you can just check it here, give it a name, give it a location, and then it's going to start showing up for people to connect to. The other thing you can do is enable Jam Recorder, which is going to actually record everything going on inside of the session when it's up and down. So once everyone joins, it's going to record everyone as individual streams. And then once everyone has left the session completely, it's going to save everything that was recorded to your hard drive. And this is going to be separate audio files that you can then mix later or send out to people. You also pick the recording directory here. So we'll disable that. You can also put a chat window, welcome message for everyone that's joining. Say you want them to all go to a certain link for Zoom or, some information about the jam. You can put that here as well as do some formatting with it. So as people join, they're going to show up in this client IP port name area right here. And it's also going to show their jitter buffer size. So now that we have this open, before I do any kind of things to my router, I'm just going to connect locally. So if I go back to my applications and I load. So now I'm going to connect from Jamulus over to my server locally. So if I go to connect, and then if you notice at the very bottom here, there's a server address field. You just have to put your own local IP, which is 127.0.0.1. That's a loop back into your own computer, and then connect. So now I have connected to my own server on my computer. You'll notice my name popped up over here and my jitter buffer size. So now as other people connect to you, they're going to show up in this list. But to be able to do that, you're going to have to open up a port on your router. If you notice, I'm connecting on port 22141. So we're going to have to do some port forwarding. I'm going to show you how to do it in my router. It may be different for yours. So you may have to refer to your router's manual or do some Google searches on how to set that up for your own hardware. It's pretty straightforward though. So let's do that now. Okay, so the way that I got into my router settings is I went to 192.168.0.1. This is your IP for your router. You may need to look into what that is for your network. One way of finding that out on Mac is just by going up to your system preferences, going to network, and then when you have your hardware selected for your Ethernet, you'll say router 192.168.0.1. So that's how you're going to connect to your router's little interface. Also, another thing to note while we jump over there is your actual local IP, which mine is 192.168.0.27. So just write that down while you're in here. On Windows, you're going to find it in a different spot. I just have to do a quick Google search on how to find that. Okay, so now that I loaded my router's gateway application, you're going to have to go to Advanced Settings. In mine, it's Advanced Setup and then Port Forwarding, Port Triggering. And I have set up two different rules in here because I have two computers that I use for servers at different times. So the first one I set up is the default Jamulus. I called it external port 22124. Any external IPs can connect to it, and then it's going to route to my computer at 192.168.0.2 and on port 22124. So that's kind of the standard connection that you'll want to set up if you're just going to keep it with the standard ports. Now with my other computer, since that port was being used already, I set that one up with 22222 just to make it easier to remember. And then just route that to that same internal port of 22124 and then also a different IP address right here. So I just have two rules set up. So you just need one on your scenario. So go ahead and do that on your router and you should be all set. Okay, so now that you have your rules set up, I'm going to use this Jamulus MacBook Pro service I created. So you're going to need to know your public IP address to tell your friends. The best way that I know how to get that is just go to myipaddress.com. It's going to pop it up. Just copy that, write it down. Okay, now I have a remote person connected to the server, and I'm going to go ahead and connect with them using my public IP address. Now you'll notice at the end I did add a port 2222 to my public IP. That's just because the way that I have it set up with my port forwarding. If you don't change the default port, you don't need to enter that in here. So go ahead and connect. Okay, you see the other person here on the first fader. You'll be able to adjust their levels and their volume and their pan, as well as your own. Yeah, so I hope that's helpful. You will see that they are up on the server. You'll be able to see both people. You'll be able to see their jitter buffer size. Very helpful for kind of diagnosing whose connection is not really working out for you. So yeah, now that's basically how you set up Jamulus. Just gotta give it a try and see how it works for you. Keep in mind you have to use Ethernet, no Wi-Fi. You need to use an audio interface. Please try not to use your built-in audio on your computer. You're going to run into more issues with that. Also, always use headphones. When you start using speakers, people are going to hear themselves delayed. It's going to be all kinds of a mess. So just please try those things and you should have pretty good success. Also, you're not going to be able to connect to people super far away. Try to keep it close if you can. I have played with other people in different countries. There is going to be significant delay, but you can give it a shot, see how it works for you. So please subscribe to my channel below. I'm going to be making a lot more videos like this, doing virtual routing, doing multi-channel recording, routing like virtual amps, say, into Jamulus. So you can check out some of the other videos I've made already on that, but they should be coming soon. So please, you want to be notified of those, please subscribe. Thanks and good luck with your own online jamming.
Yeah, at the Bengineer Audio on YouTube. His content's focused on music, audio production, and web development. That's a dude after my own heart.
That one looked a little bit more complicated.
Well, you know what that one reminds me more of? Gaming. Like you're a
Yeah.
gamer. You must have like played some games where you set up your own gaming servers.
Like what we were saying earlier.
And
Yeah.
if you've ever played a game where you ran your own gaming server, you had to port forward and do those network routing configurations because
That's with Battlefield.
when you're running the Jamulus server, then you are
Yeah.
serving it from your house. In which case, you got to pop holes in your firewall in order for people from the outside to get into the Jamulus server.
That's where you would open up the DMZ.
That would be one way to go, but the reason why I wouldn't recommend like the DMZ approach, DMZ opens all ports on that computer, so you don't need to open all ports. In his example, you needed to open up 2222, 22222, and 22224. The two ports he was using, he had one port for the server and he had one port for his client that he was sending out.
That was always the secret. A lot of people, if you're playing games, if you IPsec and port forward or DMZ and open up your NAT type, yeah.
Well, and there's only certain ports that you can tunnel through. You know, port 80 is the is the web port, and 8080 is the secure web port.
I'd imagine that's why they would use that. It's fast.
A lot of no, it's not about speed. Ports are like different doors to the same house. So, between all the windows and all the doors in the house,
you're giving it one
they're
option.
all different ports.
You're piping them. Yeah.
And in the case of computers, you have thousands and thousands of ports.
That's what I'm saying.
And the reason why software will use an exclusive port is because a lot of the software can't have different traffic going over that port. If you're setting your Warcraft and your Jamulus to the same port, you're going to run into problems, especially if you're doing them at the same time and some traffic's coming for this. So the purpose of ports is to separate the traffic that's going on. And Jamulus definitely feels more like a gaming solution to music collab.
Yeah.
Whereas Sonobus kind of does the same approach, but in a much more elegant way. Between the two of them, Jamulus, I would be more inclined to go to if I did want to like go try to find people on all their servers and just randomly walk into jam rooms and start playing with people. Jamulus excels there. But Sonobus excels on ease of setup, and you can find people over there. You just have a lot less of them.
Yeah.
They're both great solutions to start with for online jamming, and they are the two that I have tested over the last couple of years. Pretty much the rest of what we're going to look at, all new territory for me. I have not tested these other products, but some of them are bringing in new ideas and approaches and video, which is a big deal because with Jamulus, a lot of people who use it with Zoom so that they can record the video over on the Zoom side, and they use Jamulus to record the audio. That's how some people are making their online jam videos.
Yeah.
The next couple we're going to look at have some of this stuff built in. They're kind of the ultimate conferencing for musician
Yeah.
software.
Sounds great,
So
man.
I was excited when I started searching for all of this. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And some of them have actually been around for a while, and some of them are brand spanking new. The next one we're going to look at, this one's elk.live, and this one is interesting. Definitely worth checking out the webpage and seeing what it promises. And right now, you can join for free. You get an opportunity to create your own distinct band room that you can reuse. So, it might be worth going and signing up just for the opportunity, if you do end up using it, that you get the name.
I was literally just about to say Elk Live. It's been around for ages.
And
so basically, before they had the video in there, see they got video now. It was just sound, and you would come in kind of like the Zoom.
Well, yeah, they just started incorporating the other features in the last year.
Yeah.
Like what Ben had mentioned in his video, a lot of this stuff didn't kick in until COVID, and all of a sudden people couldn't jam together. And serious band members, when they want to jam, they'll go to shit like this if you tell them to quarantine.
Hell yeah, they will.
So
you gotta jam.
I found this one. Leon seems to be the go-to guy for this service. He's got a lot of stuff on it, and he's definitely involved with them on developing this solution.
All right.
And that was at Leon Todd over on YouTube.
G'day legends, I hope you're all awesome. Today I've got a follow-up to the video that I did about the Elk Live Bridge and the associated subscription service. Now basically, if you haven't seen that video, this little box is a simple audio interface with a pretty neat trick. There's a hardwire Ethernet connection on here, and if you and a friend each have one of these and you have an Elk Live subscription, you can call each other over the internet and you can get pretty fantastic low latency online jamming. I did a video about this, I think near the end of last year, where I talked about how we were using the bridge together with the Elk Live online service to basically jam and rehearse remotely. Living in Perth is not the world's biggest city, but it's geographically quite large, and I live 45 to 60 minutes away from our drummer, and it's just an easy way to say, hey, are you free? I'm free. Let's jump online and do some jamming. So the thing that attracted me to this was the low latency performance and being able to jam in real time. One thing, and kind of one unanticipated aspect of it, was that it made writing and collaborating really, really easy, because the amount of latency that you get on this is so much lower than, say, a typical Zoom call. It makes it really easy to log in and just kind of bounce ideas off one another. Furthermore, I talked about how it would be a pretty cool idea to have something like this if you're teaching online, which I also do a lot. But two problems with that. It would mean that everybody needs a subscription, and everybody needs a piece of hardware. So Elk have come out with a native app. It's currently just available for Mac, but it's a native app that lets you use your existing audio interface. You don't have to go and buy a bridge. You don't need any extra hardware. You can use it. And the thing that's going to appeal to everybody watching this is it is currently free to use. They are going to move to a freemium style model in the future, but it's out there. You can just go and sign up. You can download it if you're on a Mac, and you can immediately start collaborating online. Now, it needs to be mentioned that something like this, even with the bridge, is limited by the laws of physics. So you're not going to get real-time jamming if you're here in Perth, Australia, and you call the United States. Simply, signals can't move that fast. However, you can get really comparable results between the bridge and most consumer interfaces. I've been doing a lot of jamming and writing with our drummer Cam, where I've been using my Apollo, which is great because I don't have to unplug a bunch of stuff and plug it into the bridge. And Cam has just been using the stock standard bridge. So we're going bridge to Apollo, and we've been getting really, really good results. And we're able to play in real time there, just like with the bridge. So it doesn't feel like a compromise between the Apollo and the bridge, which I really like because, again, anything that requires less effort and less work is a good thing. Like I said, though, one unintended consequence that we found using the bridges is they're pretty good for writing. Like if you don't need to be playing in a super phase-locked manner and practicing playing tight like you would at a rehearsal in a rehearsal room, if you just want to bounce ideas around and sort of say, I like the drum beat that you're playing, why don't you try this idea? Or why don't I try this idea on guitar? Having a free program to do that with much lower latency than a Zoom call is pretty fantastic. And furthermore, in the Elk app, kind of like I demonstrated last time, they've updated a bunch of stuff. You can go in there and basically set up a mix for yourself and a mix for everybody else. So everybody can mix their own sound and have their own experience in the app. It's almost like the way you would do in-ears for a live band. Everybody would have their own sends, and you can just dial in exactly what you like on each end and really make yourself happy. So they haven't lost any functionality in the app. In fact, if anything, they've kind of added things in there. There's the ability, like I said, to go interface to interface, bridge to bridge if you've got it, or bridge to interface. Furthermore, I mentioned teaching. And this is something that I found has been pretty effective as a teaching tool. I've been using Zoom for a few years and just using, the free Zoom meeting that times you out after 40 minutes. So you just send your students another Zoom link. But one nice thing about using Elk Live, again, is the ability to kind of mix and match audio levels, just kind of get everything where you like it. And if it's something where I want to say, hey, let's jam over a backing track, for example, I can sit there and have the backing track on. I can play over it and demonstrate some licks, and then my student can just have the same stream from me and play over it, and I can hear them in real time, which is pretty great, having that experience which is closer to being in a room together. I'd say probably 80-90% of my students now are online. Even if I teach them here in Perth, it saves busy people a bunch of time from driving around, and it makes my life easier, which is ultimately what I want from a piece of technology, let alone a free piece of technology. So what I like about this, obviously, is that Elk have listened to the people who checked out the bridge and checked out my video. Taylor Danley did a really good video talking about some of the strong positives about something like Elk Live and some of the drawbacks of using the hardware bridge, which I would recommend going and checking out. Just Taylor's channel is fantastic in general, but that video is particularly good, and there's some really good points on there. So it's pretty exciting that these tools are available for a lot of musicians out there. I really hope they add a Windows version as soon as possible. But for now, you can just follow the link in the video description and you can go and check out Elk Live for yourself. You can jam with your mates. You can use it as an online collaboration tool, and hopefully, do the thing which we all set out to do as musicians and actually go and make some music. Let me know if you've got any questions or any other comments and suggestions. That's the little follow-up on here. Go and watch the original video that I did if you want to go and check out how the low latency jamming works with the bridge. You can now get access to that with your existing interface. I think it's pretty cool. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.
And that was at Leon Todd over on YouTube. Awesome review. It, as educators, when he talked about using it as an instruction tool for his students, a lot of this software, it's those online instructors, especially during COVID, that had to keep working. And a lot of this software is been developed because of the necessity of that. Online jamming has just kind of become the bonus. Hey, Cass.
Hey, he'll be right back. I'm sorry.
Well, I really,
It was my fault this
I
time.
really like this software we were just looking at. A lot of potential benefits. The integration with video that they have, and using hardware with it is another great approach to these solutions.
That was bad. It was really bad.
I told you.
I'm sorry about that. A dog threw up everywhere.
Oh, Bingo was his name-o.
Yeah. It was rough. Really bad. She couldn't walk back there. It was just, I was like, oh, I gotta take care of it. And I tried to time it. So sorry about that, man.
If you caught some of those features there, did you notice like they have a hardware box with you
Yeah.
don't need to use it with this solution. I like that the solution works on its own, but the hardware
I knew that box was coming.
and BandLab did the same thing. BandLab had a couple of little hardware doohickeys to make it easier for somebody who's got a computer but doesn't necessarily have a good audio card. What I
Yeah.
like about their hardware box is it's network centric. It has an Ethernet port and it's designed to do what this box is meant to do, straight to the router, straight to the internet, doesn't really have to go through a computer at all.
No.
And
We could
that's
just,
how you can get that really high low level latency. High speed, low level latency, that's what online jamming is all about.
technically, if you can send a signal,
Well, you
wires,
can send a signal, but how that signal
anywhere.
gets to its destination, and
Yes.
you'll notice a theme across all these videos so far.
RF might be a way to go.
Everybody almost in every solution has mentioned Wi-Fi or Ethernet in one way or another, except for Sonobus. You can. It's not that you can't use Wi-Fi for these solutions. It's that the
Yeah.
jitter they're talking about, packets getting lost. We're trying to have real fast. It's like gaming. It's about ping time. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure your audio's coming out like a hose and going to the other computer. Sometimes packets get dropped, and normally we use things like TCP/IP, for the web, where if a packet gets
Yeah.
dropped, the receiving computer recognizes I didn't get the packet, send it again, and eventually the
Oh,
packet comes through.
it would be
But well,
unreliable. Yeah.
that's reliable when you have to get that packet. But
Yeah.
if you're gaming, if you're in the middle of a game and you're moving something, you're moving here, the person's moving there, the packets being sent are they're it's a quick packet like hey location.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
drop a packet, you don't if I don't get your location information, there's
Uh huh.
another one coming. So just that's what they call TCP instead of TCP/IP, where there's a
Oh.
verification system. UDP is the protocol that gamers use, and a UDP protocol just says send me the packets as fast as you can, and if I drop some, I will just update your location when I get another packet.
Another one.
Same
Yeah.
works with music.
That's what it
If you're
shows.
trying to do this kind of stuff, you're not doing it with TCP/IP over the network. You're doing
Mhm.
it with UDP because you're just spitting the data, and there's new packets coming with new audio data right after it.
I used to try to get a game to run through both because I wanted it like if we couldn't rely on
Well,
that to go.
and sometimes you had to run it on both just to get a, a reliable experience.
Mhm.
It depends on the game and how
Well,
important that information that's coming in, whether you actually need it to be as accurate as possible or you need it to be updating as fast as possible. With this kind of software, it's about constant updates. It's constantly sending an audio signal from somebody.
I had bought a game, Red Faction. I can't believe I remember that. I know they had like a newer one, and I bought it, and I was so mad because I couldn't get it to work, and it was
But
because it didn't have a media mode on and some kind of security with forward to port.
well,
That's what it
that's what we were
needs.
talking about with the port forwarding. If
Yeah,
the thing you're running on your computer is using ports that your
yeah,
cable modem, your router is typically your router has a firewall that's on. It's blocking any
yeah.
ports coming in, and it should do that. Once you have a server or you have a client where you need people being able to send into your
Ah,
computer, then you
that's a
have to
terrible
open up
system.
those ports. That's a big
Um,
key in gaming. All this stuff we're looking at, network
yeah,
configuration. Otherwise, you do like you said, you turn on the DMZ or you just turn off the
yeah.
firewall on the
That's
router,
all.
but you shouldn't take that.
Turn it on.
That's not a solution. And if you do that, if you do turn on the DMZ while you're playing a game, after you're
Yeah.
done, turn it back off because you wouldn't open all your doors and windows in your house just to get some cool air in and leave them like that after you're done getting your cool air.
Getting random phone calls and shit.
Or people
Uh,
people walking into your house.
yeah,
That's what happens with a computer. That's
yeah,
what happens with a computer.
yeah. Oh, they can come to your house?
Well, what we're talking about here comes to like security and
Oh,
ports and all these software need a way to talk in your network. So these are like games. There needs to be pipes coming in
yeah.
and out, and that's why you have to punch holes if you want to play this game or you want to run this software.
So I was kind of toying with the scammers on the band lab, and the dude got my number. One of them was pretty convincing that it might have been something. 'Cause I thought it was from the uh, buying the membership and using the
Oh, pushing the boosted.
no, just getting the free deals from the membership. So then when I tried that, I got something. And then I started getting these funky things. Well, now somehow they got my phone number that I've been using, and I've been getting calls from angry people saying, "I don't have WhatsApp. Who are you?" Da da da. And I'm like, so I had to keep texting him back. It's a scam. Stop calling. But then I was like, if I change the number, there's a lot of people that know my number
Well,
that's there. And
if
that,
your number
wow,
starts to get stuff like that,
yeah,
sometimes changing it is the only thing that's an option.
that's what I
And what
ended
can
up doing.
suck
So
is
now,
if you change to another number, you could end up getting a number that somebody
yeah,
else fucked up because there's only so
it
many of
sucks,
them
man.
out there.
hmm So getting all that squared away from myself, knowing security from you and watching this now, I've learned a lot, man. Dude, that's pretty
Well,
relevant.
and
So
security might.
yeah,
This is IT, so and
yeah,
Glenn actually, when it comes to security, he's the guy I would want. Like at the door, the ultimate bouncer.
Gate, son.
So
Yeah.
that last one that we looked at had built-in video. It was a hybrid. It's a conferencing solution and a musician instructor solution. This one is a lot like it. This is JackTrip. It ended up stumbling on this because one of the guys talking about one of the other things mentioned this one, as an alternative. Again, a new one that if you get started with it now, you might be on the ground floor of your.
We look like part of them.
Oh yeah, we are. Hey, we're tripping with Jack. And you know, looking at their website and what they're promising is a lot of what all these solutions are promising: low latency, high
Yeah.
quality audio. Ease of use is the one. Ease of use is the one they all claim, but and
we'll find out.
well, and I hope some of the viewers, if they
We should test
try
this
these
stuff,
things,
man.
I am most interested in how easy was it for you to get going? Because with musicians, a lot of musicians
my
just
God.
want to jam. They don't want to set their
Ain't
shit
that
up.
funny? It's like McDonald's. McDonald's like, yeah, we got our make Big Mac, and it's got this and that, and then Burger King finds out and says, oh, we got a Whopper, same thing, but bigger bun and bigger wiper. It's like, what? What are you doing? Yeah, and it's all the same ad.
Well,
They're all
and
juicy.
now you can get a
They're all
Whopper that's a plant.
yeah. They were trying to add some small thing at the vegan thing. Yeah, now serving vegan burgers. Anyway, yeah.
So one part of their solution approach, the affordable here, and it says it utilizes free software to build what they're building. They're subscription-based services, and you're going to see that with some of these products. That last one we looked
Yeah.
at, they're taking right now it's free, and if they need a beta tester for their Windows, because they do have to get Windows, a Mac only solution here is only catering to a small amount of musicians.
Oh
If
man.
they get their Windows set up, they have an interesting product. And with JackTrip, if they're using open source software, and I suspect I know the software they're using to build this,
Yeah.
and they're giving it the low latency that all these promises give, if they can get it to work right, they have an opportunity here.
Yeah.
And their goal is for the same kind of market: teachers, instructors, bandmates that want to write songs. That guy in the last video made an awesome point about, like, this stuff is perfect for when you just want to write a song with your bandmate and you don't want to drive 50 minutes.
That'd be crazy if they start
It's not where
setting
you're
up all that.
practicing so much to play live for your next gig, but it is where you're writing the songs, and that's where this niche of jamming fits.
If they set up like a room where it's got the speakers and like the person on the other side can kind of go along with them and then hear them, and then have that classroom like doing their thing, and the teacher's like, oh yeah, today with us, he'll be listening and helping us coordinate with class, Tom Hanks. That'd be so great, dude. I would love to see that in the future in a hologram of him too. Just to talk about
I'm waiting for holograms to
TikTok.
really take off. Yeah. So this one that's going to cover JackTrip's is at JackTrip's lab. They have their own set of instructional videos and YouTube channel. I like when these solutions have a home on YouTube, because all of these, you want tutorials, you want some good videos with instructions. A lot of this software does need a little hand holding to get stuff set up. And like I said, musicians, a lot of them just want to jam. They don't want to have to set up their instrument. So at JackTrip Labs, they're going to show us how to get started with JackTrips.
Dang, you blonde. All right. We're ready.
This is Jan from JackTrip. Let's talk about how to get started with JackTrip in 3 simple steps. Number 1, let's go to jacktrip.com here and sign up for a free virtual studio account. I'm hitting the Get Started button. There's another one over here. And it takes me to a Create Your Account page. You can use whatever you feel most comfortable with, Google, Microsoft, Apple, or your email address. In my case, I'm going to sign up with my email address and hit Create Account. Once you're logged in, step number 2 is to simply create a studio. So I'm going to hit the Create Studio button over here, and it will run through 3 different steps. Number 1, the basic studio settings. I can give it a name. I'm just going to call it Jan's Jamming Studio. And I can even drag and drop a picture that I like to have a little banner image for my studio. Once you've positioned your banner image, simply hit Next, and it'll take you to the location settings for your virtual studio. Now this is where you will want your studio to be located. Something that's close to all of the musicians, right? As close as possible to minimize the latency. So I'm going to hit the Next button here, and it'll take me to the review, so I'm going to hit Create. Alright, so while the studio is starting, make sure that you've connected your audio interface and your microphone if you have one with headphones, and then you basically get to this step where you can choose whether you want to run JackTrip in the web browser or with the desktop app. I recommend you use the desktop app because it's way faster, but sometimes, you know, if you don't require the ultra low latency that JackTrip offers, you can even run it in the web, even on your phone. So for now, let's download the JackTrip desktop app to make sure that we have the lowest latency possible. So I'm going to click the desktop app download button here. And you can see that it's downloading the package right now. And once it's done downloading, we're just going to click on it and run through the installation process. Let's do that together. Continue, continue, accept the agreement, and install JackTrip. It asks me for my password to confirm, and I'm going to hit Install Software. Once it's installed, you want to allow the incoming connections, and you want to allow JackTrip access to your microphone so that you can send audio to your fellow musicians. So I'm going to hit OK, and you can already see that the app is started. Now it asks me to connect via an Ethernet cable, which further minimizes the latency so we can make music in real time. So once you have your Ethernet cable plugged in and your headphones or audio interface is connected, you simply hit OK, and it shows you the audio settings. Basically, you just have to set this once and then you can pretty much forget about it. So in my case, I have a Zoom U22 audio interface connected that I'm selecting here. I want output channels 1 and 2. You can test the output signal if you want. And for my input, I am also going to choose my microphone here. So I'm going to select the Zoom U22 driver as well. Now I only have one microphone, so I'm just going to stay with input channel 1. And it is one channel, of course, so I'm going to keep it mono. You can also, of course, if you have stereo instruments connected, you could also configure it to be stereo and send 2 channels to everybody else. But for now, let's keep it 1 channel and save settings. All right, you can find the one studio we've created earlier right here, Jan's Jamming Studio. And what we can do now is the last step, essentially. We can invite other people. And the other persons we invite, they don't even have to create a studio and run through that process. They can simply click a link and then join right into the studio once they've downloaded the JackTrip app. If you want to invite somebody, you simply hit the icon here and you can see that the invitation link has been copied to the clipboard. So what we can do now is we can send an email out to anyone who we want to have in the studio and have them join via a simple invitation link. And that's it. let me hit the join button right here, and you can see that I am connected. I'm currently muted. So I'm going to unmute myself. You can see the audio signal coming in. I could be a little bit louder even over here. And you can see that also my video is currently being recorded and transmitted to the studio so that everyone that joins can see my face as well, and me playing my instruments. Now, if more people join, all the videos will be visible right next to each other. And find a little chat box here on the right so I can say hello once my friends have joined, and we can also communicate via chat. Happy jack tripping.
Happy jack tripping. Now, that is some interesting shit. At JackTrip Labs over on YouTube, and the website is jacktrip.com. This is what BandLab is missing. If they utilize the same approach they're doing, because this is a lot like the web-based, app-based integration, same way BandLab does it. The one thing they're missing is this kind of low latency conferencing and collaboration. If they can add that to that collaboration tab, I will fucking pay for a subscription every year if it's this kind of software in that tab.
Yeah. I like it. That was cool.
And this is different than everything else we looked at. This really is kind of a web-based solution, but they do give you a desktop app if you really want to, which you're going to want to. If you're a musician, you're going to want to do the desktop app because you want to get as fast as you possibly can. And the browser has to go through layers to talk to your audio card. The desktop app, or in a case of a mobile app, talks directly to the audio card. The signal goes faster when it doesn't have to go through a browser layer.
What's to make quantum computers?
It's still not going to change our network speeds. You could have the fastest computer running over there. It wouldn't change how fast I can send you shit, or how fast you can send shit out.
That's crazy. I thought by now, because we had like 5G, 6G, and all
Well,
that
yeah,
stuff now.
I do want to have a network bandwidth night where they are up to 5 gigabits. If anybody out there has a connection like that, I would love to know your results if you tested it.
Probably really great for him, but not for his friends would be like, yeah. They probably wouldn't even know what's going on. Honestly.
Well,
I don't hear no difference.
and when it comes to running any of these, the bandwidth that you have, the CPU and the RAM, like this is where computer does start to matter, and where like broadband, any gamer understands what we're talking about, because if you're a gamer, then you're already doing that for games. This stuff is easier than the games.
Yeah, that's a good website design. I'm glad they got them all facing the other direction, so they're never really staring at you.
They got a nice setup, and they do have. They are using open source technology to build their solution, and they're doing it for musicians.
Now,
BandLab should pay attention to this solution, and if they are looking to make their experience better and to really make jam rooms, I envision a day when we go on to a BandLab project and we feel like we're in a room together. This
Have you ever
with
gotten
that
trolled on one of those yet?
would make a beautiful mix.
Like, I know, like, I saw a video on YouTube, and there was someone messing with Sonobus, and but what happened is, like, little bongos, like in indie, like Middle Eastern like music, and you would hear that, and then you hear this dude talking, going, "Yeah, nice, knock knock, Azik, I'm Sandman. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? I said, dude, you gotta. He's like, yeah, I come to jam. And then he's like, not really
Well,
clear, you know, and
and
it just crackles out.
kind of what it that's kind of what it is. It's like when you're jumping in Jamulus rooms.
Yeah.
If you go just jumping into rooms, like who's playing in here? Who's playing in here? You're going to get the world of
It
musicians.
was funny though, because he said, yeah, we're gonna call our band, and then he said like what, you know, like a stereotyping a little bit, you know. The joke was hilarious. Like he was just gagging it for his time, really. But yeah, I enjoy that multi-world thing, and I just remember emails, man. Like you sent away, waited a couple days, and got one back.
Oh, you're
You
talking
know?
snail mail. Like,
Yeah, that's how I remembered it. But BandLab had allowed me to do a little bit, sort of live.
well,
I mean, you can go
and
inside.
you know
Yeah,
everything we're looking at. BandLab collaboration is what we all understand. It's a slow motion jam. It is that like step one, somebody does something, step two, somebody else adds to it.
yeah,
BandLab collaboration right now is it's sequential, it's linear, it's in slow motion in that way. And
yeah,
these things we're looking at are the kinds of
yeah,
ways to take that sequential process and get songwriting where you're bouncing off the other musician. The part of songwriting that I miss in a live jam
yeah.
is jamming with someone, bouncing off of what they're playing. You don't always get that experience when you take that step by step approach.
We used to have a software that was, it was old, but you could make MIDI punch-ins on like the grid, kind of like what BandLab looks like, and then live he's in there too. Be a lot of
Oh yeah,
delay, but
well,
it was,
actually,
but it
the
worked.
first time I ever looked at live online jamming, what we're looking at now,
Yeah,
was in 2001 ish. I mean, way,
yeah,
way back, and alls it was for MIDI jamming. At that time, with
yes,
dial-up, most people were on dial-up, and you could
that's what I remember.
you could jam with MIDI instruments. You could have a dude playing an 808 over here and somebody playing a keyboard over there and do this stuff in 2001.
That was exactly, yeah. It was
But you were limited to MIDI instruments and people had to have the sounds on the other side. They had to have the synthesizer. Now your
MIDI world.
limitations are
Yeah.
bit rate. You might have to go to 128 instead of 256. But now you're dealing with audio. They're pushing audio and crunching it down as much as MIDI did back then.
Yeah. It's cool. This is a really cool subject. Um, surprised about what I've actually learned from it.
And it actually gets more complicated when you add video to the mix because you know making music these days you're not just an audio designer. If you're making songs these days, you're an audio designer, you're a visual designer, you're thinking, what font am I going to use for my album cover? Uh, where the love of music takes creativity in the other arenas, some of the,
Yeah.
like this next one we're looking at, again, you're seeing now solutions with video and recording the pieces so that you can have an online jam and get everybody's footage, everybody's sound, and make 21st century music videos.
Yeah.
This one, SessionWire, another one, as I was searching for Sonobus and Jamulus shit, kept getting mentioned. A lot of different people were mentioning it, and I'm not sure where they are at this point, but given what their features are now starting to do, it looks like they are heading in the same direction as the last couple we've looked at. Capturing the camera, the microphone, in as low latency as you possibly can.
Video, all that, yep.
And this one comes from Production Expert. Yeah, he was a new find. I love these new channels I get to find. At Production Expert on YouTube. Damn, he got that name. That's a good one.
Looks like the Enterprise symbol.
Yeah, and when you look at his videos, like he's doing what I was talking about, like little video editing video here, audio editing video here. Anybody who wants to call themselves a producer does all this shit because production is not one thing.
Look at how he's labeling
Look
stuff.
at just his like breakdowns in Apple.
Yeah.
He's got his product reviews.
You can see it.
These are the channels.
He has all his channels are labeled. They're all labeled. You see how it says waves, key detection, all that, and then the only thing it's kind of missing is like him doing like that or whatever in front that I've seen, but I'd like to start seeing us do a little bit of that.
Oh, everybody should do more of this. This is a good example of how you put your shit together.
Looks nice.
So he's going to show us SessionWire collaborating. And is it as easy as they claim? See, that's what I was finding. A lot of people's like, oh my God, this is the easiest to use. So he's actually reviewing it for that.
Really?
Hi, this is Russ and it's Luke from Production Expert, and I've been asked to work with Luke today on showing you SessionWire in action. Now, SessionWire, at first glance, you would think, why not use Zoom? But we want to show you why you'd use SessionWire to do some online collaboration. Now, there's been lots of versions of this, but this one seems to be the most clearly thought out. We'll just quickly show you over the interface that you can see on our screen. So on my screen here, I've got Studio One in the background. And Luke, what have you got in the back? What DAW are you on?
So I'm running Pro Tools at the moment, Russ.
Okay, so he's in Pro Tools and I'm in Studio One. So the great thing is it's DAW agnostic, and there's plugins for every major DAW, AAX, AU, and VST. And so what you have is two parts to the whole ecosystem in a sense. You have this part, which is the standalone application. And what this is allowing us to do is two things. Comms, so you can see TB on mine. And if Luke talks for a second.
Yeah, so this is my talkback going to Russ.
And this is my talkback going to Luke. And we can mute them. And we can turn them on. And secondly, then, you can see there's one called HQ. And that's my high quality stream going to Luke. And that's what he's going to be listening to in a while. And this is where it differs from just saying, let's get over Zoom and try and do this or any other thing. And we've got pretty cool ways of setting this up, but we're going to try and kind of start with the basics today of how we're going to work on this. So Luke's done a track and he's played it to me over the high quality stream. And so what I can do now, if I wanted to, I could mute my talkback audio to Luke, and I can go to the beginning. I'll tell you, Luke, one thing I really love about this is when you click outside of the actual application, it doesn't disappear and go behind another window. So it's always
it's forced
really on top. It's got like forced on top, which is really helpful. So he's sent me this track as a Q mix. So I've got it on my timeline because he could effectively play it down the timeline for me to sing to, but there'd be latency. That's inherent that's to do with the comm systems we're all connected to. That's the interweb at its worst. So what he's done is he's sent me over the backing track that I'd already listened to and got an idea for. But what I am doing now is Luke is hearing me in high quality over over the internet and is hearing the backing track he sent me. So I can now play. Yeah, it's good to be with you and and so I can start busking and say, Luke, what do you think of this idea?
That's pretty cool. It's a good start.
Yeah. To be honest, I've never heard the track before, and I'm just kind of. But you get the point. So I've even put a bit of Seventh Heaven on myself, and the way this works is if you look on my desktop here, is that all I have to do. It's really not complicated. All I have to do is instantiate the SessionWire Send plugin, which is here, and then I'm sending from all my tracks as an auxiliary send out to this plugin, which means I can change the volume. So if Luke said to me, turn the track up a bit more, I can do that, but it doesn't turn the track up in my can, so I can turn it down. If he wants to just hear more of my vocal, I can do that. Now what I've done as well, of course, because I've sent it on an aux, I've sent a pre-send on mine, a pre-fader send, so I'm not listening to my loop back on my audio, I'm just listening to a low latency version of that. And now I can go in here and say, hey Luke, here's an idea, and I'll play it again. And it's good to be alive, good to be alive. And then this is the point where he decides he needs another vocalist for this track. But Luke, you can hear that down the other end in high quality audio, can't you? My vocal and the backing track.
That's it, and it's perfectly in sync because I'm hearing you out of your DAW.
So you're hearing exactly. Now we could have put that on the, depending on what DAW you've got, we could have put that on the master bus, or we could have put that on the inserts as well. The good thing about creating your own auxiliary send is I could put loads of instances of the sends and send Luke a monitor mix in high quality from each of the tracks. So we could say, Russ, lose the bass, or so if this was a whole multi-track I was working with, then I could do that as well, which is really cool. Then all I have to do, as I say, is whack my DAW into record. Good to be alive. Thank you for being here. You can see what I've done. I've recorded that, and when we're done, I can just send that over to Luke. He drops it in his timeline, and we're done. But I think, Luke, I don't know about you, but I don't know what's happening at your end. Can you talk through what your end for those that are watching this at the same time?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, I'm literally hearing Russ down the SessionWire connection in the video chat, and all of the audio that I'm hearing, all of the music that I'm hearing, is coming out of Russ's. It's coming out of Russ's Studio One session. So that means that everything that I hear from his end is perfectly in time, because what he hears is what I hear essentially, because I have I have his session coming in purely over SessionWire, so there's only one connection, so there's not a lot to go wrong there. And I also know that Robin over at SessionWire is working on functionality where you can drop files to your collaborator straight onto the video window. So if I wanted to drop a file to Russ, I could do that simply by dropping it onto his video window at my end, and then that will automatically upload at my end and download at his. So we know that collaboration is going to get just that little bit easier soon as well, Russ.
Now, if you really wanted to, instead of me recording it and sending him the file, which is possible, Luke could insert a high-quality receive plugin into a record track and could record me in high-quality audio while I'm doing it over the internet. You might want to do that, but the thing is that it's not that hard to record it and send it to him anyway, and it's kind of belt and braces. So, as I say, dead easy to set up. If you hover over the windows, you've got these drop downs. This is where I select a microphone for my talk back. This is where I select, obviously, the camera that I'm going to be playing back. And this is the... I can screen share over this as well. So if Luke wants to see my screen, and so actually I could, let's say you've got somebody who's not very, let's say you're using a singer who's not very technical, they could share their screen with the person who's recording, the producer of the session, and then they could say, what's going on? And Luke could say, if you just put that insert in there and turn that up, then I'm going to be able to hear you. And then here's where all the magic happens. This is the drop down where I can select whatever audio source I want to send to Luke. So I'm sending from my audience, my high quality audio, which is this stream here. And then, as I say, I've also got this mic here, which is just sending him talkback. So that's low quality talkback audio, and the same for Luke. So if Luke sent wants to put a send on his audio system, I'd say, hey Luke, can you just play me back that vocal part that's on there? He could quickly put one on, and I could hear his high quality audio as well. So it's really that simple, and it's rock solid. So I don't know about you, Luke, but thumbs up from me.
Very much so. And also, another thing, Russ, is when I'm collaborating with the artist, I can just very quickly play them a mix. So it doesn't just apply to individual instruments or a recording session like the one we've set up. We can also use it to give the client an update on how the mix is shaping up as well. So it's so useful in a number of different ways.
And even approvals. So in a sense, for security, it'd be quite good if you don't want to send a track to a client who you want to send a mix to. That you could have a live mix session. You could actually mix live with that's the other thing you can use this for. You could send your client a live stream. They could be online like me and Luke are now. And I could say, could you turn the bass up a bit more or try that? And you can have an online mix session live. And
very useful.
Very useful. I think it's a great piece. It's one of the lesser annoying ones of these that I've seen. I don't know about you, Luke, but some of them I spend all day scratching my head trying to set them up. But this was pretty straightforward.
Very much so, yeah. And I think for a lot of engineers working with musicians as well, SessionWire is the one that is probably the easiest one to get your head around that we've tried, certainly.
Yeah, in fact, when we got tripped up by SessionWire, it's because we were trying to overcomplicate the process. You can use SessionWire standalone if you want. If I just wanted to listen to a mix and sing down the track, I wouldn't even have to open my DAW. Luke could have sent me a high quality mix. I could have listened to it and sang at the same time. And he could have said, yeah, Russ, that's nice. Then let's go ahead with recording this now. And then we could have set our DAWs up. It's all pretty straightforward.
Great stuff. Well, it's sounding great, Russ, and thanks for connecting up. It sounds like, we've got a take.
I think you need to clean your ears out, but thanks for the compliment anyway.
Excellent.
Oh, that I think is the most intriguing of all the solutions we've looked at so far. I had electrons exploding, seeing how they the approach that it takes.
That'd be the one to use.
Well, you know what this solves? You know when somebody's in ASO mode, like your DAW should be in ASO mode. That's what you want to be in, and you need to get
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, you need to get that ASO into Zoom or to somebody to listen to what you want them to.
Dummy audio.
You go to the master bus on your DAW. You add that and say route this master bus out to Zoom, and everything coming out of your DAW is now a virtual wire signal. I get the name. What did they call it?
Awesome.
SessionWire.
Exactly.
The name is fitting because that's what it does. It takes that ASO device that normally would never talk to Zoom directly and gives you a way to actually route it as a filter. And that's just one thing it's doing. The collaboration tools, the video integration, again, BandLab.
Can we use that?
BandLab needs to take a note from these companies and
maybe we can
either
use that for my Zoom
marry each other or utilize this technology in the same way.
We could use that technology in Zoom.
Well, you're going to see this technology getting utilized a lot more because musicians want to jam. In our Zoom, which is all about musicians hooking up every night to make shows, this stuff is the most asked question I've had for 3 years.
No kidding.
So, at Production Expert, awesome channel. Love that new find. And this one you might recognize. Have you ever heard of Muse Sessions?
No.
Yeah. See, this one I've come across a couple of times over the last few years and just hadn't had the time. Yeah, I'm already doing some of this over on BandLab, but it looks like they're expanding into this market too. And it's musesessions.co for the solution website. What we're going to look at is a review of it. And remote recording audio. You know, if you're the engineer on a project and the project is being recorded in another location, your ability to engineer in real time, it's important. And some of this software, it's about it's about being able to mix in some cases. You got musicians who are connecting, doing their thing. There's going to be a mixer, an engineer in that virtual session that's going to want to take all that and put it together.
Right. It's from Learn Audio Engineering,
which I think might actually be at Learn Audio. Yeah, at Learn Audio Engineering. It's nice when they do it that way. And he's all about production and engineering. I mean, just look at the description.
Awesome.
So it's nice to see people when they're reviewing, knowing where they're coming from. Because with this
Yeah.
software, I'm coming from that same mentality. Like, how can I use this in a project, in a production that got to make a song, got to do a show?
Yeah. Productive, right?
Muse sessions. We're gonna see how remote recording audio and MIDI, big one for me with the MIDI, gets
All
done.
right.
In this video, we'll be looking at a piece of software that allows you to record audio and MIDI into someone else's computer. It's called Muse, and it's free. So what is Muse? It's like Zoom for music makers. It's a completely free platform that every producer should know about. With Muse, you can collaborate online with other musicians like you're in the same studio together. You can share what's playing in your DAW, and everyone in the Muse session can hear what's coming from your speakers like they're sitting right next to you. Let's take a look at a few of the features that make Muse a game-changing app for music creators. With Muse, you can take any audio being shared with the session, like a voice or an instrumentalist, and record it straight into your DAW. You can even play or record MIDI over the network, so someone with their keyboard plugged in can play software instruments on your computer. And you can easily drag and drop files from your computer into Muse, so everyone in the session will be able to add them directly into their DAW project. So a bit about my experience with Muse. I found that it's definitely easy to drag and share files directly from Muse and into your DAW. No issues there. The MIDI recording worked great, like scary good. I think that this program could definitely be a real game changer, and it's definitely worth trying out for remote work. However, I got a bit of latency in the audio recording where the audio would record into my DAW much later than it was performed. To correct for this, you'll want to adjust the Muse recording settings to match the tempo, sample rate, and buffer size of your DAW so that you can record performances with accuracy. It also does take some troubleshooting to make sure that you and the performer hear everything during recording. In my case, I ended up creating a multi-output device in my audio MIDI settings with both my interface and the Muse audio share driver. The other driver used to sync recording on both computers is the Muse DAW controller, which will start and stop recording in your DAW and the DAW of the performer so that they can send you their copy to confirm that you don't lose anything over the network. For more tutorials on the recording setup, check the Muse website. And if that's not cool enough, you can even share your session with a mix engineer. You can share your screen and they can control your DAW so they can mix and master your project live without needing to meet you in person for the same experience. They can hear your mix through their speakers in their treated room. Making music online has never been easier than now, and Muse just released a community page within the app, so if you want to meet new people online to make music with, you can browse the community, find someone of similar interests, and invite them to your session all in the same app. So if you're in need of a guitar player or an engineer, you can search for it in the community and invite them to join your session. Get started today for free at musesessions.co. So sign up on Muse and send me a message. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, I am going to sign up and send him a message. See, that's another one
Um,
that BandLab would do well to incorporate in, because you saw how like they could send tracks. They could record live and do that kind of collaborating, but they could also send the track that they did on their end.
Yeah.
This eliminates having to go into a project, grab a stem, import it into Reaper, do something, export it from Reaper, put it back into a project. A lot of that middleman work and the time that it takes to do that, that particular
Yeah. It's
solution,
all eliminated. Yeah.
if I had to do a quick like project collaboration like I do on BandLab sometimes, I'd rather do it
Yeah.
this way. Connect the DAWs, do your stuff. Okay, you're done. Drag it over to my DAW, and I'll get to
Mm.
work. So that is an interesting solution. It's funny. A lot of these, they don't compete against each other. They have different approaches, and in some cases, different uses. I could see using that just like SessionWire for different
Yeah.
reasons.
Mm.
The next one, this is probably another one you heard about, JamKazam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets mentioned here and there in the back, and they've been at it for a while. That's probably why. Like, I'm not sure where they're at with their development now. Like all these other competitors, but they've been around and mentioned enough that some musicians are still using
Yeah.
it. And this one's a quick
All right.
overview, the 5-minute jam coming
Sounds
coming
good.
from their YouTube. Like again, I like when the developer has their own YouTube presence, because that's where you get the tutorials and examples. You want to see this shit in action,
Yeah.
and you can get them at JamKazam on YouTube.
JamKazam is a new live music platform for musicians. With JamKazam, musicians can play music together in real time from different locations over the internet, as if they are sitting in the same room. Connecting with other musicians on JamKazam is easy. You can invite your musician friends to join the free service, plan a time to meet, and create a session for them to join. No need to pack, transport, and set up gear. If none of your musician friends are available, you can use the Find Sessions feature to see if there are public sessions in progress in your area that you can join to play with others immediately. You can also use the Musicians feature to see a listing of other musicians in your area who want to play online and message or connect to them. And after you register, JamKazam will automatically send you a weekly email to let you know about new musicians in your area who have joined the service. In addition to playing together remotely, musicians can easily record performances during sessions and share these recordings to Facebook or Twitter, or get a simple URL that can be shared via email. Musicians can also open recordings made during sessions, play them back, and work with the recordings at the track level. For example, you can mute tracks in a recording and practice or experiment live along with the recorded performance of the other musicians. Musicians can also use JamKazam to broadcast their live sessions in real time to family, friends, and fans. Like recordings, these can be shared via Facebook or Twitter, or as a simple URL. JamKazam is and will remain free to use for playing together and for making some recordings and broadcasting sessions to small audiences. If you want to use the service more intensively for broadcasts to larger audiences or to make a lot of recordings, we will offer an inexpensive subscription to cover heavier use of the service at the end of our public beta period. To get started using JamKazam, you can use the built-in mic and headphone jack on your Mac or Windows computer to capture your instrumental and vocal performance and to play audio in sessions. For better audio quality, we recommend using one of the many audio interface products commonly used by musicians to record music onto their computers. If you already record music into GarageBand, Pro Tools, or similar digital audio applications, you likely have what you need already. And if not, please check the JamKazam website for a list of inexpensive products that we've tested with our service. You can pick up a good little interface starting at about $50. Thanks for watching this video. Please sign up for your free JamKazam account now, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing you online soon.
And you can see why that appeals to some musicians.
A little bit of rock, a little bit of jazz.
Well, and for JamKazam, they're a little bit of Jamulus and a little bit of BandLab. Their appeal is just like Jamulus. When people when people want to hunt for musicians online, this is where JamKazam and Jamulus kind of excel. Like it's a place where you can just walk into a band room and like turn on an instrument.
Makes sense. It was pretty cool.
And
showcase.
They do have a good modern interface. Like the software development looks solid. I hope they do well in this market.
Yeah, me too. It looks like they're all going to be competing though.
Well, yeah, everything's changing. Like look at everything we just looked at as far as these 9 different solutions. I mean, this last one, again, one that I stumbled on as I was looking at the ones I was looking for. You know, when you go searching for Sonobus and you keep hearing these other echoes, you know, like solutions are trying to compete with each other.
I mean, eye to eye.
And Groovesetter just kind of stumbled in there, you know, and again, music educators, who they're building this stuff for and what they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Music educators, online producers, podcast, broadcasting. This is where all this software starts to bring the sound into
I like it.
the mix.
I like the.
And they do have a nice presence. I mean, it's a nice looking
Yeah.
site. I'm not.
Well, they all did.
I'm not sure if it's just a mobile solution though. Looking at the screenshot, oh no, there's people using it on the
You can play
computer
the
too.
trumpet.
If they cover the mobile as well as the desktop,
Yeah.
then they're right up there with Sonobus. Like of
Right.
all the solutions we looked at tonight, Sonobus is still the best choice if you want musicians
world.
on every platform. Some of them are going to be on phones with their mics, and some of them are going to be on a computer with their
I wonder if
Focusrite.
like major production units and stuff, if they go on those things, or like they might screw around a little bit.
I would bet you that a lot of the major production going on in today's studios is utilizing something from what we looked at tonight.
Yeah.
Because if they're not, then they're mailing shit. That snail mail you were talking about before,
Yeah.
You have to wait weeks
Might be
to
the
get
only
somebody to do a
reliable
track
one.
and get it back.
I mean, think about it. Like, as an artist, if you're really, really big, like Kanye, let's just say Kanye, and there's hackers out there, and they know that he's making music, and they want to grab that, and you got AI, so they can grab his shit and steal it.
If you're Kanye and you have a music studio and you have computers in there that have your next great track and you don't want anybody to know what you're working on, that's like same as corporations where they have to protect their data. If you're Kanye, your studio better be rock solid protected.
They used to.
Otherwise, your track that you're working on could end up leaked online by somebody who just happened to sneak in one of your windows.
They would on the show I was watching, like Crossroads, I believe. They were saying like you gotta keep the music to yourself. You know, like you can't go out there and tell them your things and start humming around because someone else is
Well,
listening.
you don't want to pull something out the oven when it ain't baked.
Yeah, because then someone else will steal it.
Well, somebody else might finish cooking it, and it ain't going to be
Right.
in your oven. It's going to be in theirs.
You're dang right.
That's what you have to be aware of. So, Groovesetter.net. This is our 9th solution on online jamming. I think after tonight, we are ready, John, to hook our equipment up.
Oh, I'm ready. Dude, I got the whole thing. We're ready to go. Let's do it. Dude, I'm one ready.
We'll see how Groovesetter works.
Yeah.
And we'll wrap up.
I don't have an I2, but I mean, we got wireless internet, so.
Huh? You got motivation.
There you go. We'll try it.
So here's a quick little introduction into Groovesetter. This is a new one to me.
Yeah.
that's one I'm going to have to see in more action. Groovesetter. That is at Groovesetter on YouTube. That's their channel for their solution. Looks cool though. I do like the screenshots that I was seeing there, and what it looks like it
Yeah, that
has
one,
for functionality.
it's a little basic, but it's the same thing as the
Well,
other one.
and it does
They
look.
kind of,
It looks like it's a PST local software approach, not a cloud
yeah,
thing, but could be a hybrid of both. You know, a lot of what we looked at tonight works in both the cloud and at your machine.
right. That it looks like they're really moving towards that cloud thing and wireless. I mean,
Well, the cloud serves a purpose. You know, if you can do your processing and storing your projects, in some cases, the media for everybody to work on, it's better in the cloud. Media,
yeah,
things like that are on one person's computer do not lend to like
yeah,
teamwork in working on something. So cloud is useful for bringing the whole team together. But when you're recording, when you're using some of this software and you're laying your guitar track down for the project, what you're recording on your computer is going to be better than what you can send through a stream.
yeah,
Compression's gonna happen unless
right,
you have the like 5 gigabit network connection for the internet. Every one of these solutions to get super latency that we looked at do so by compressing the audio, and it's not the best situation for getting the final track. It's not necessarily where you get your ultimate final track, but it's more than good enough for like, hey, I got an idea, let's make a song. All of this software
sounds
is
worth it.
perfect for songwriters and the
Yeah.
process.
Oh,
Once
was that all
once
the
we
video?
figure out the song, I want you to sit at your computer, record it, send me the
Yeah,
wave, and it's going to be a wave, uncompressed, big
but
file.
hell, it's there. That'd be awesome. That'd be fun. We'll try.
That'll make a good topic for another night, like uh, moving files between musicians, coming from this DAW into BandLab as a stem into that DAW. The whole process and workflow. It'll be a good topic to cover.
That would be
Glenn should be back next week, and I will throw that at him and see what sticks.
all right.
But
Is this your conclusion?
that was a great collection of online collaborating solutions. Every one of them has use.
Yeah,
I want to try every single one of them for different reasons.
I would love to.
And some of them are friendly with the fast computers and the slow computers. The whole purpose would be to find what works in every environment, because
Yeah,
we deal with it all these days.
yeah, yeah. I like the third one. That was pretty cool. Third one you showed tonight was cool. But yeah, pretty much they all work the same. Just some of them a little bit different on how they connect to each other, but they're all simply the same.
Well, and we saw different approaches. Some are
Yeah,
VSTs that can be loaded in different situations, and some are standalones. A few were even pure cloud based, like you can run this in a
yeah,
browser, like Restream. You know, Restream does everything minus the low latency in a browser.
right. Sounds great.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
John, awesome to have you on tonight, and especially for this kind of subject. it took 2 to cover it.
I figured you were cutting close to 3 hours because I didn't know if it was going to cut off on you.
Oh, no, shit. We hit this like a champ, man. Are you kidding? I got 2 minutes for the outro.
Heck yeah.
So, thanks, everybody, for joining us. And if any of you try any of these solutions, let me know your experience. I totally will help you to test it.
All right. I hope you guys try it out, man. Yeah, it's all the Angified way. It's fun.
It is the Angified way.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Night, John. Night, everyone.
Right.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some BandLab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out. Kind of.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40.